The laughter had the taste of cold metal, thin, brittle, and mean. It scratched at Aella's nerves like static from a dying power cell, adding nothing but a sting to the gnawing hollow inside her. Real laughter nourished. This stuff was empty calories. She sat alone in the antiseptic food court of Affelberg Station, a gleaming shrine to profitable calm. The off-world acquisition syndicate had just launched its newest experiment here, the emotional decorum accords. Big feelings were now a billable offense, tracked, tallied, and fined on the spot. So the station's atmosphere had settled into a low, flavorless hum, schedules and margins, curated politeness, boards declawed for commercial safety. A desert on purpose. And she was parched. Her kind were meant to carry a soft inner glow, instead, her skin dulled to matte, swallowing the hard light above. She curled herself into a plastic chair, the smallest shape she could manage, hoarding the last scraps of energy. Across the concourse, a pack of off-duty cargo hands noticed her, thoughts loud, unfiltered, and petty. They indulged in their tiny rebellion against the rules by being cruel where it cost nothing. Soul drinker with space rot, one of them thought, half joking, half afraid. Their smirks pricked like grit under the eyelid, annoying, unsatisfying, useless. They pointed. They cackled. They performed indifference for each other while she starved. Then a human voice cut through the sterile hum like a flare. "Come sit with me." He was balancing an absurd tray, synth sausages slick with oil, radioactive green relish, a skewer of something suspiciously mushroom-shaped, moving the way no one was supposed to move here, casual, loose, alive. He stopped at her table and, without asking, set the tray down, scattering grease and color against the station's white glove aesthetic. "Tough audience," he said wryly, then pivoted toward the hecklers with a smile that wasn't friendly at all. "Wrong table, gentlemen. This one's booked." A patrol drone drifted past, lens calm and blue, filed the moment as de-escalation, and glided on. The haulers shuffled away, egos leaking. The man turned back, his presence was a supernova in a room designed to smother stars. He leaned his elbows on the table, grin softening into something protective. "Hey," he repeated more gently. "Come meet with me." The wave hit her then, bright and layered and urgent. Protective anger on her behalf, sharp as ice cracking. Under it, warm curiosity, steady and generous. Under that, a fizzing line of open, shameless attraction. A meal, not a crumb. The first in weeks. Her vision sharpened from grey to color, the edges of the world clicked back into focus. This human was a walking banquet. He caught her staring and chuckled, mistaking shock for shyness. "I don't bite," he said. "Unless requested. We can always negotiate." A theatrical wink sent another ripple of amused confidence lapping through the air. Rory Kucherson, captain, owner, janitor, and bottle washer of the freighter Stray Comet. "And you?" "Aella," she managed, voice papery with disuse. "Beautiful name," Rory said, testing its shape. "Definitely not from around, whatever this place is." He gestured at the immaculate panels. "Affelberg, galactic waiting room, now with extra waiting." He speared the fried fungus with a plastic fork and launched into a monologue like a pilot punching atmosphere. Docking clamps tuned for the wrong standard, a port fined for unauthorized atmospheric venting. After his coffee maker detonated, the comet now permanently scented with burnt ambition and cheap beans. Worst of all, a customs official named Hask, humorless, rigid, and painfully proud of it. While he talked, she tasted the contours of his mood, low, smoldering frustration over the clamps, a bubbly, self-scorching comedy about the coffee, and then the main dish, bright, righteous annoyance at bureaucratic nonsense, seasoned with delight at its absurdity. Every sentence fed her. Her glow returned by degrees, the station light softened around the edges. "What's a Hask?" she asked, voice finding its natural music again. "Picture a filing cabinet that learned to stand upright," Rory said. "Now give it a badge and a personal vendetta against Joy. He tried to cite me because I laughed during his sermon on the new decorum rules. Apparently my unwarranted levity disturbed the station's sacred serenity. Can you believe that? A fine for a coffee pun, enforced by a man allergic to happiness." He leaned in conspiratorially. I told him his face looked designed by committee. A committee that hated faces. The joke was dreadful, unperfect. His glee at delivering it was so bright that an involuntary sigh escaped her. First sip after a drought. Rory froze mid-bite, eyes narrowing in curiosity as he really looked. The faint color in her cheeks. The sudden depth in her gaze. Huh? Either that joke landed way too hard, or the fry grease here is potent. She needed to tell him something. The truth was dangerous, but a trimmed version might be survivable. I metabolize emotion, she said quietly. He blinked. You, what now? Strong feelings, Aella explained, lifting a weak hand. Potent ones. They feed me. This station, she swept a glance over the carefully blank faces, people policing themselves into static. This station is famine enforced by policy. Confusion on him shifted to bright, delighted interest. He leaned closer, voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. You're telling me that my incandescent rage at galactic paperwork is lunch? In a manner of speaking, she said. A slow grin unfurled, the grin of someone handed the universe's most interesting problem. Okay, I think I have a plan. A deal, she asked, head tilting. A deal, he echoed. Hask is waiting for me to crawl back and pay a ridiculous fine. He enjoys it. Petty power trip. You come with me. If you can. I don't know, spook him enough to make him drop it, then I'll give you an hour of pure victory joy. Full blast. And a lift off this museum of manners. It was reckless and stupid and, somehow, the best offer she'd heard in ages. An hour of focused triumph from this man would be an oasis. I accept, Aella said, and, for the first time in longer than she could remember, smiled. The checkpoint was all humming grey and watchful scanners, ruled over by Hask, chinless, pinched, the color and texture of recycled paper. He peered over his datapad with seasoned disapproval. Kucher-san, he droned. Payment due for Citation 1 Delta 4, unauthorized atmospheric venting. Malfunction recorded. Fine assessed. Come on, Hask, Rory said, lounging against the counter in practiced nonchalance. Underneath, Aella tasted the tremor of real worry, the fine cut deeper than he let on. It was a coffee maker, not a reactor. Warning? I'll drink nothing but iced sludge till departure. Regulations are absolute, Hask said, satisfaction oozing dull and greasy, empty calories, actively unpleasant to taste. Pay, or the vessel is clamped. Aella stepped forward. Weeks of scarcity had pared her down, but the spark in her bones suddenly found oxygen. She rested a hand on Rory's forearm. The effect was instant, the diffused cloud of his emotions tightened into a clean, strong current feeding directly into her system. Anxiety, bravado, hope, all focused and bright. Strength surged into her limbs. Hask droned on about subsections and protocols. She didn't try to feed on him, there was nothing worth tasting. Instead, she did something she hadn't dared in years. She borrowed a thin, precise thread from Rory's fear, the cold flash of imagining his ship locked to the dock, and nudged it outward, not back into Rory, but across the counter toward the bureaucrat. Hask stuttered, eyes losing focus for half a breath. A flavorless wave of dread washed over him. Had he left a security grid unlocked? Was that a critical alert reflection? Did his supervisor know about the late-night bids from his work account? Fingers clumsy, he fumbled the pad. Just go, he muttered at last, flicking a weak, irritated hand. Get the machine serviced. He turned to recalibrate a scanner that didn't need it. Rory stood rooted, then cracked into an incredulous grin. He didn't speak until they were clear of the checkpoint, feet echoing down the docking corridor. That, he breathed, laughter leaking through the word, was art. You didn't even say anything. He wilted. The promised triumph rolled off him in golden waves, sun-warmed honey, sparkling wine, effervescent and clean. She felt it knitting her back together, cell by cell. Deal honored, he said, watching the soft light return beneath her skin, or soften in his voice. You're coming with me. The stray comet is home, at least for a while. They reached a ship that looked like a family of parts deciding to travel together, panels mismatched, edges patched with synth tape, captain's chair scuffed into lovable. The faint perfume of burnt coffee lingered in the air, and to Aella it smelled like open sky. Beneath his showman's brightness, something steadier emerged from Rory, protectiveness, responsibility, a quiet thread running through the chaos. Warm. Sustaining. She knew, down in the bedrock of herself, that the famine had ended. Necessity wrote their next itinerary. Chaotic good was hell on a budget, and Athelberg had emptied Rory's accounts to the dregs. He slouched into the captain's chair, boots propped on a console held together by unapologetic strips of tape. Bad news and good news, he said. Bad, we're flying on fumes and a Caldera Nebula food cart vendor still wants his money from 2 years ago. Good, I found us a job. He spun a datapad. Priority freight, a crate of hyper-refined Tibanian gas for a luxury orbital spa. The payout glittered. The catch walk alone and loopholes. Merchant named Jero, Rory said, tone flattening. Slick as a greased ladder in spin gravity. Charges you for oxygen if you breathe too enthusiastically. You're anxious, Aella noted, spice and ozone undercutting his grin. But excitement from there too, challenge accepted. Apprehensive is my middle name, he deadpanned. Rory Apprehensive Kutcher son. Family tradition. But the rate's too good. We go smart, we win. He gestured between them. Also, you, our new variable. Jero's office gleamed like a conscience after a Polish, dark wood drinking the light, perfumes hanging thick as fog. Jero himself shimmered, skin rippling like heat above chrome, smile lacquered, certainty oozing. The confidence rolling off him was rich but greasy, a sauce that tried to drown the dish. Captain Kutcher son, he purred. 3 rotations for delivery. Alas, priority offload isn't specified. For a premium queue, fees must be adjusted. He threaded the word like silk around a throat. Priority run means priority delivery, Rory said, hackles up. Semantics, Jero soothed. Merry semantics. The smothering comfort of Jero's self-assurance pressed in, Aella felt Rory's irritation spike and waver under that slick blanket. She kept her posture decorative and harmless, then let her fingers rest lightly on Rory's forearm. The connection tightened his emotional signal into a clean beam. Now she could pass the room with a surgeon's scalpel. She didn't bite into Jero wholesale, she teased a filament from his smugness, drawing it in as a thin, controlled stream. Through Rory's focused presence, the flavor cleaned up, still oily, but decanted. Jero's cadence stumbled. The spa's thermal regulators are delicate, he said, composure wobbling. A delay could be problematic. Exactly, Rory said, sensing the opening. His spine straightened, the old swagger returned with edges. The spa pays you on delivery. You drag your feet, you eat their losses. And their clientele? The kind that never forgets a missed massage. Aella pulled harder on Jero's poise, a prickle of true anxiety flared beneath his sheen. Had he overplayed? Who was this silent woman reshaping the air? Fine, he snapped, Polish cracking. Standard fee. Original terms. But container damage deducts at triple. Rory laughed, real, ringing, unbothered, and sealed the contract before the man could think better. Back aboard the Comet with the crate webbed down, his triumph poured off him in bright arcs. Aella drank and smiled, but something strange resonated after the meal, an echo. His joy lingered in her like a bell tone, lovely but thick, dampening the faint, intricate background hum she normally sensed, the ship's contentment, the distant fret of traffic outside. It was as if she pressed her ear to one perfect note and the orchestra beyond had gone muffled. My secret weapon, Rory said, pacing the bridge, eyes alight. Good luck, incarnate. She looked at him, this hurricane of a man becoming her center, and felt the warm surge of affection answer him. The echo inside her answered too. Beautiful. Potentially blinding. Elsewhere, unamused forces were triangulating. Hask, humiliated and nursing a new superstition, filed his incident report with vindictive care. Kutcherson's history of petty infractions. the unregistered off-world female whose arrival aligned with his momentary cognitive lapse. He used the term suspected bioaffective influence. In a sea of bureaucratic data, that pairing, bioaffective, unregistered, flashed like a flare. The algorithm elevated, cross-referenced, and delivered the packet to Director Merrill Rusk. Rusk's office crowned the OAS tower, a temple to quiet. She was ascended, her species' centuries-old solution to civil war had been surgical, emotions excised to save the body. Stability achieved by subtraction. She read Hask's report with a face like a locked door, only the faint ratcheting of the microplates along her jaw betrayed focus. She queried deep archives, explorer journals, degraded myths, clinical footnotes. A name surfaced again and again, half legend, half warning, symbiont. Emotion metabolizers. Romance leeches in the vernacular of the frightened. On a side display, she reviewed footage from a suppressed riot, faces storm-tossed by grief and fury. She felt nothing. She calculated. Waste. Inefficiency. Suffering attuned to no purpose. Her life's thesis crystallized, emotion was the pathogen, tranquility, the cure. A living damper would be the vaccine. A symbiont would not be dissected or destroyed, it would be integrated, surgically interfaced into a control lattice, field projected to draw off anger from insurrection, bleed passion from sedition, empty hope from resistance. Peace as engineered absence. Philanthropy by other means. Initiate high-priority trace, she said, voice clean and hollow. Freighter stray comet. Flag vessel and associated personnel for live capture. Priority Alpha. The net tightened, invisible and efficient. One rotation later, in the hush between systems, the nebula outside painted the bridge in newborn color. Aella, comfortable for once, offered a story from home. We don't tell tales about conquering, she said. We tell ones about connection. There's a children's story, about the first pair. Rory turned, listening. A love story. A caution, she corrected gently. Two symbionts who loved exclusively, brilliantly. Their shared joy became a closed circuit, radiant, self-sustaining, and lethal. In savoring only each other, they forgot how to eat from the world. The perfect loop offered no new energy. They dimmed together, starved together, and winked out, a beautiful silence where a constellation should have been. Some elders recited a comforting lie, a lost verse insisting their love transformed into a new kind of sustenance. The lesson remained, a perfect lock can be a perfect prison. Rory held the story like a fragile instrument, moved, romantic, reading it as poetry. Aella told it like weather, inevitable. He couldn't yet sense the undertow beneath the words, a map to their future if they weren't careful. They threaded an uncharted meteor swarm on reflex and grit, hull pinging but whole. Silence pooled. Rory killed the drive, turned in the cool light to find her glowing, pearlescent, alive, astonishing. His patter fell away. The truth was simple and vast. He leaned in and kissed her. For Aella, it was a sun going off. Not a flavor, but a detonation, relief and awe and fierce protectiveness, all the colors of him braided with something new and resonant, a deep unconditional love that rang through her like a bell through bone. It filled every chamber of her, brighter than anything she'd ever tasted. He was in love. Completely. They did not see the fuse catch. The first leg of their partnership was born less of destiny than necessity. The stray comet's fuel reserves were thin, and Rory's account balance thinner still after the fiasco on Affelberg. We're practically running on fumes, he admitted, sprawling across the patched leather of his captain's chair. He twirled his datapad and grinned anyway. But hey, good news, bad news. Bad news, I owe a vendor in the Caldera Nebula a few favors I'd hoped to forget. Good news, we've got ourselves a paying haul. The job was simple on paper, deliver a sealed crate of hyper-refined Tibanian gas to a floating spa that catered to the galaxy's richest. The fee sparkled like a fortune. But every contract has its barbs. The refinery's run by Jero, Rory muttered, grin thinning into a grimace. Slippery merchant type. Loves the fine print more than his own reflection. He'll probably charge us for breathing too loud. "You're unsettled," Aella observed softly. Beneath his swagger she tasted that tight, metallic sting of nerves, though it was braided with anticipation, a gambler savoring the deal before the dice roll. "Unsettled's my middle name," Rory shot back. "Captain Rory, apprehensive Kucher son. Whole family tree, bunch of warriors. But the payout? Worth it. And besides," he leaned toward her with a conspirator's spark, "he won't expect you." Jero's chamber was a cathedral of wealth. Dark wood panels swallowed light, holograms of swirling gas clouds decorated the ceiling, the air reeked of sweet, synthetic spice. Jero himself was tall and slick, his skin shimmering like oil across hot metal. Confidence radiated from him in suffocating waves, thick and cloying, as if he believed he'd already won. "Captain Kucher son," he cooed, voice dripping with amusement. "The agreement specifies delivery within 3 revolutions. It does not mention priority unloading. A small surcharge will correct that oversight." Rory's jaw set. Priority cargo means priority treatment. Don't try to rewrite the rules mid-deal. Jero's smile stretched. "Semantics, Captain. Words are pliable." Aella could feel the shift in the air, the merchant's smugness pushing like oil into every corner, while Rory's confidence began to sputter. She slipped her hand onto his arm again. The effect was immediate, his emotions aligned into a clear, blazing current. Fear and bravado, tangled together, sharpened her focus. She reached outward, brushing against Jero's pride. It poured off him like syrup, thick and sticky. She tugged at it, thin, careful threads. Through Rory's focus, she could filter the taste, refine it. Jero faltered. His sleek tone cracked. The SPA's regulators are fragile. A delay could cause complications. Doubt leaked through his surface. Rory leaned into the opening, his grin returning. "Complications for you, Jero. The SPA's not paying for delays. You are. And trust me, their clientele doesn't like waiting for pampered air." Jero's iridescent sheen dulled. Genuine worry spiked through the grease. At last he hissed, "Very well. Standard fee. But any damage is triple." Rory barked out a laugh, loud and bright enough to rattle the polished wood panels. Aella drank in the blazing joy of it, feeling her cells hum with renewed vigor. The contract sealed itself on his screen, and they left with the gas and the beginnings of a bond neither of them could quite name. Back on the Comet, as the cargo straps tightened, Rory paced, incandescent with victory. "We pulled it off," he crowed. The delight pulsed from him, warm as sunlight. Aella drank, glowing bright again. Yet a shadow lingered in her chest, a resonance of his joy, steady and strong, drowning out the subtler emotional chorus of the cosmos. It was like being locked inside one perfect note. Beautiful. Suffocating. "You're my charm," Rory said, standing before her with a look halfway between pride and tenderness. "My wild card. You belong here." Her heart fluttered at the sound of it. She felt love rise in her like a tide, golden and dangerous. A prison disguised as bliss. She closed her eyes, savoring and fearing it all at once. But while their ship drifted in painted starlight, back on Affelberg, Director Merrill Rusk had already pulled the trigger. Hask's bitter report, with its damning phrase, "bioeffective influence," had been fed into the central algorithms. And those machines were built to notice anomalies. At the peak of the Syndicate's immaculate tower, Rusk read the flagged file. Her face was a mask of stillness, jaw plates ticking faintly as her mind turned. The Ascended had long ago cut away their capacity for passion to escape endless cycles of war. To her, serenity was not a sacrifice but an evolution. Emotion was disease, peace was its cure. The old record spoke of symbionts, creatures who consumed feeling itself. Myths had called them parasites, romance leeches. Rusk saw opportunity. Not dissection. Not destruction. Integration. Wired into the Syndicate systems, such a being could siphon off the fury of a riot, the fire of rebellion, the hope of insurgents. A living engine of order. Her voice, soft and toneless, sealed the decision. Commence priority acquisition. Target, stray comet. Objective, capture alive. And so the hunt moved into motion, silent and inexorable. The first warning came not from the scanners, but from the way Rory's mood buckled mid-laugh. 1 second he was glowing with the smug satisfaction of a man who had outfoxed a petty tyrant. The next, tension rippled through him, tight, metallic threads of alarm that stabbed straight into Aella's senses before his face even changed. A second later, the stray comet's console bloomed red. A blockade had dropped out of slipstream ahead of them, angular syndicate corvettes, formation perfect, lights cold as scalpels. They had not come to negotiate. Ah, Rory muttered, running a hand through his hair. That would be our friend Hask tattling to his joyless overlords. He whistled low. Guess you really did spook him. Congratulations. But the amusement was brittle now. Beneath it pulsed something darker, fear for his ship, for her, for the freedom he lived on like oxygen. The fear stung as it touched her, but it was laced with a fierce determination, and that was enough to fill her veins with fire. She reached for him, fingers brushing his sleeve. They know what I am, she whispered. The thought echoed inside him, where her presence had already woven itself. She should let go. She should float away before she consumed him. Instead, she held tighter. Then we'll just have to make them regret knowing, Rory said, his grin returning, sharp and reckless. He slammed a fist on the console. Engines roared awake. Outside, the nebula shimmered, a storm of color like stained glass breaking apart. The comet dove into it, weaving between shards of drifting ice and plasma lightning. The syndicate ships followed, their sterile lights swallowed by the storm's living glow. In the chaos, Aella fed, not on the syndicate's blank minds, empty of nourishment, but on Rory. His fear, his wild delight, his stubborn refusal to bow. It was dangerous, intoxicating, almost too much. She felt herself blazing, her skin casting radiant light across the cockpit, her hunger replaced by a heady fullness. But the echo persisted. The more she drank, the more it felt like a closed circuit, the story she had told him replaying in her skull. Two beings feeding only on each other until the rest of the cosmos faded away. She tried to pull back. She couldn't. He glanced at her mid-dive, hands flying over the controls, a starfire grin cutting through the storm. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I swear, with you on board, we're unstoppable. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe this torrent of devotion would last forever. But she had lived long enough to know, even stars burn out, and perfect joy is the most dangerous fuel of all. The nebula raged around them, purple fire swallowing the syndicate's pursuit. And deep inside her chest, where she once carried only hunger, she felt the perilous warmth of his love burning brighter than any star.